Satan, the devil. What is it in your life? Can you recognize when it is in your world? Now, it might seem a little morbid for me to talk about this, but it's actually very important. I wanted to talk about it purely based on what Neville Goddard would teach and what you can find in scriptures and also in Buddhism. Satan, or the devil, is a figure that shows up both in the life of Jesus and in the life of Buddha. And if you analyze the stories, they seem to have something in common. They seem to talk and tempt Jesus and Buddha in both stories to go for very physical things. Now, is there a problem with that? Well, that would lead us to the concept of attachment. The Buddha once said that attachment is a cause of suffering. Now, in the Bible you can find quotations like, "We are in this world, but we are not of this world. We walk by faith and not by sight." There are statements that all seem to indicate that they're not focused on the physical reality the way it is, while going through it at the same time. But Neville would also say in his own way that Satan is the doubter in you. It questions everything that you want to do. So when you have a dream or goal and you start to question, you have this little voice in your mind questioning whether you can do it, whether you're able to achieve this. Because after all, it should be easy if you are the Son of God. Well, Neville would simply say, and in the Bible you would sort of see it, that is the devil in our lives currently. And we're all having one. We're all confronted by this figure symbolically in a way. I know Hollywood movies like to make it seem very over the top at times with a specific character that would then show up in our worlds physically speaking and then drag us down to hell. Well, that's not usually how it happens. Maybe for some people, but for me personally, the only hell that I can ever end up in is the hell of self-doubt. Think about it. If I no longer believe in myself, I will end up in hell, a hell of my own making. That's why I also would say that heaven is of our own making. Both of them are, heaven and hell, the good and bad. They're both of our own making. But it's up to us to learn how to navigate through the good times and bad times to end up in a much brighter spot in between these two polarities itself. So when you are going through life, there are going to be times when you're doubting in your own abilities. But what are you going to do when those doubts hit? Are you going to go along with them and then feel bad about yourself? Or are you going to stand up for yourself, spiritually speaking, and say to that, no, this is not the truth about my real potential. This is not who I really am. I don't have to be a limited being. I don't have to listen to this doubt. I don't have to fear. I don't have to be afraid that I will fail, because I have the power to succeed, and it comes from within me. It lies beyond the doubts. It's hidden inside the depths of consciousness. And we're just going to have to pull it up, so to speak, into the conscious mind itself. We're going to have to drag it out of the depths of the subconscious, out of the spiritual self. And once we do that, we gain the power of creation to create for ourselves what we want. So the devil in our lives. See, there's many terms for this figure throughout many religions. And it doesn't really matter, but they always have one main theme in common, is that it's about confusion, destruction and chaos in a certain way. If we become too attached to this world, confusion and destruction and chaos will arise, because the things that we have right now, physically speaking, will all, well, vanish again. If it's about people, they will pass away, just like ourselves. If it's about things, they will break down eventually, and then we have to let go of them. Yeah, we can keep a broken object in our lives if we're so attached to it, or if it has a special meaning to us for the time being. But again, it's a form of attachment that we have to be mindful of, because the more attached we are to the things of this world specifically, the more suffering might arise, because we're going to have to let go of them eventually. Can you see what we're getting at? Now this in the Western world is something that is not really talked about a lot, especially in our Western society. It's more in Eastern societies like in Asia, in Buddhism and stuff like that they really are contemplating these facts of life on a much deeper level than we do in the West usually. We don't take the time to contemplate these facts of life, and therefore we're constantly in conflict with the physical side of life because of how it is, how it just is. It comes and goes, things come and go, conflict constantly. How are we going to set ourselves free? We're going to set ourselves free if we do exactly what these stories were telling us from both the Bible, Buddhism and other religions, is that we're going to have to turn our back to them all. Now this doesn't mean that we're going to pretend that there are no issues in the world, but it does mean that we're not going to allow the issues of this world to control us any longer, so that we can perceive better ways of living and acting in a world like this. Because if you don't do this, you're going to find that all the chaos of this world is like a roadblock. It's going to cause you to become unable to perceive good solutions, the way out of the problems. But if you can turn your back to it symbolically inside your mind, meaning you're no longer attached to that, to the thing you observe, then you're able to open up your mind for different things. You're making space for better and different ideas to originate within you that will help you overcome the chaos and doubts in your own individual life, first and foremost. I think therefore it's a very important concept to contemplate for all of us if we're able and willing and are doing this. So first of all, you are able to do this, but you might not have trained yourself enough to be able to pull it off right away. So this again is a matter of, well, becoming familiar with the process of directing your own mind and discovering the power of choice within yourself. But we also have to be willing to do this for ourselves, for our own sakes. And then we have to ask ourselves, have I been doing this so far? And you're going to find many times, perhaps we're not doing this. We're not really turning our backs to the chaos. We're trying to pretend it's not there, but that doesn't work. We're going to have to find the real solution, the real kingdom of heaven that is within, as it was written. The only way to find that kingdom of heaven that is within is if we cleanse our minds of all these negative doubts that we have. You can't enter the kingdom of heaven if you're full of doubts and worries. And that actually makes a lot of sense, because the kingdom of heaven implies a very nice kingdom indeed. It wouldn't have room for such negative states of mind. Therefore it's hinting, perhaps at us all, that if we can remove the doubts and worries from our lives, basically removing the devil, you can enter the kingdom of heaven, because you are then in harmony with the frequency of heaven itself. You see, heaven can mean all sorts of things to people. One thing we can all agree upon is that it must mean wonderful things. We wouldn't think of heaven as a bad place. We have to see the symbolism behind the words. If we think of hell, we all agree that must be a bad spot. So, as Neville would say, the doubter in you is going to make your life a hell. If you constantly doubt in yourself and stuff like that, as one of the previous videos mentioned, creating a nervous breakdown for yourself by doubting in your own abilities to manifest your dreams, that's exactly where you'll be going. This all takes some practice and training on our parts, but once we get this, we'll be able to recognize the symbolism behind this figure that has existed throughout the ages, and it will no longer hold any power over us unless we let it. But I like how it was written in another book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And there he also made the claim that the devil doesn't like the person who thinks for themselves because he can't control them. And you know what's shocking is most people don't think for themselves, so they're easily controlled by forces outside of themselves, by the government or perhaps even the devil. It's something to think about, isn't it? I just wanted to put out this message for others who are contemplating this concept in their own lives and we're looking for people who are perhaps doing a similar thing, because it might be a little weird to just go out to your friends or family and suddenly start talking about this. They might be like, why are you thinking about the devil, this and that? They might be a little shocked by that, but there is some spiritual reasons behind all of this. And perhaps this might serve someone some use, to at least hear that there are other people out there contemplating this concept in their own ways. Now, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.